The most important computer in my life right now is this, my iPhone 12 mini. Man, you can do a whole lot of great stuff with this. It looks quite nice. I have it in the blue color here. Super powerful, great camera, but in my opinion, the most beautiful device that Apple ever created was this, the iPhone 4. Awesome solid glass back and front to match with a stainless steel strip around the edge. It just looks amazing. And I wonder if there might be some way to make this super powerful iPhone 12 mini look a little bit more like my favorite, the iPhone 4. Now the difference here in the looks of these two phones obviously is just that the edge on this more modern iPhone has this beautiful anodized color. But I think that we can use this easy off heavy duty oven cleaner to dissolve some of that anodized coating and hopefully get something that looks a little bit more just like plain aluminum. Now the one place that we definitely don't want to get any of this oven cleaner is inside the iPhone itself. So I have some tape that I'm using here to cover up any of the openings in the aluminum case. So the lightning connector on the bottom, the speakers, and the microphone opening on the bottom there, and then also the earpiece speaker. And then on the back, there's a microphone input, and then there's the camera's flash opening. Let's just cover that up just to be safe. And then the Gorilla Glass screen, there's some sort of oleophobic coating on there. I'm not sure how that would react to the oven cleaner, so I'll just make an attempt here with just normal masking tape to maybe not perfectly protect it, but at least slow down the effects a little bit of the oven cleaner. And here I'm taking extra care to try to get the edge of the tape lined up exactly with the edge of the glass. And then I'll use an X-Acto knife, brand new sharp X-Acto knife blade, to try to trim right around the edge as closely to the glass as possible. This was actually fairly easy to do. There's a nice little ridge right next to the glass that I was able to just glide the X-Acto knife blade right along. And then here when I had the cut finished, I just popped it right off. It just peels right off along the cut. And here I'm doing the other side. Just like magic, it peels right off. So now, pressing down around the edge, I want to make sure that it is sealed, that it's clinging as tightly as possible to that glass to try to not let any of the oven cleaner get underneath there and give us a nice clean edge. And then the glass back, similarly, why not try to cover that up, try to protect that a little bit. So I'll get out the masking tape, try to cover the back in the same way. Once again, just getting as close as possible to that edge, so I don't have to trim down the sides of the phone. Here on the back, since the camera bump is sticking out and going to make it hard for part of the masking tape to sort of stick down flat, I thought I would go ahead and just trim off the edge carefully first before I added that second piece of masking tape. And since I'm going to need extra tape to go up and around that camera bump, I thought that it would be a good idea to have this particular piece of masking tape actually go completely off the edge of the phone, so it can warp around a little bit and stretch. If I had lined up the edge of the tape perfectly with the edge of the glass on the phone, I didn't think that there would be enough extra to stretch and form around that camera bump and make a seal all the way around. So in this case, I did end up having to trim all the way down the side of the phone with the X-Acto knife. Not a big deal. And as you can see, it still ended up being a pretty clean edge. And as with the front, I wanted to have the edge of the tape on the back be stuck down as securely as possible, right along the edge of the glass. So then after checking the edge, making sure that all the tape is stuck down securely in all places, it's time for some oven cleaner. So my plan was to use this little plastic sort of leftovers food container to hold the oven cleaner, and then to make sure I didn't get any on my hands, because this stuff is pretty corrosive, I have these just sort of latex gloves or rubber gloves. So after shaking up the oven cleaner, I could spray a nice deep layer at the bottom of the plastic container. And then position the iPhone up on its side so that the oven cleaner is touching as little of the phone as possible, trying to have it touch just that edge where we're trying to take that blue anodized color off. And then I'm just gonna wait. Let's give it 30 minutes, see what happens. And after only about 10 minutes, when I took a look, I was really pleased to see how much blue color was already coming off. Since there is still so much oven cleaner just sitting down here in the bottom of this container, I thought I would just try scraping it over to one side with this putty knife and see if it'll still work to take the blue color off of another edge of the iPhone. So we had 18 minutes left. Let's try instead just giving it 10 minutes, and we'll check back. We can see the silver edge after only 10 minutes is looking really good. So let's see what the other side looks like with this leftover oven cleaner that we just scraped over to the other side. After a couple quick wipes, you can see that it's already looking quite good on that side too. We may not need to spray any more oven cleaner. On to the next edge. With the phone balanced in the oven cleaner, let's set another timer for 10 minutes. And as expected, after 10 minutes, this side is looking pretty good as well. Now that 3 of the sides have been treated with the oven cleaner, it's time to take off the tape and see what we have. The screen, thankfully, doesn't seem to be damaged at all, even though some of the oven cleaner did leak under the tape. And the back glass, unsurprisingly, is unharmed as well. So here I'm using a little bit of warm water with some dish soap to clean off every last little bit of that oven cleaner. We don't want that to be on the phone any longer than absolutely necessary. And now that the iPhone has been dried off pretty well, we can take off the tape covering the speaker holes at the bottom and the lightning port connector. And now that most of the color anodized coating is removed, it's time to move on to some steel wool. I have some grade 0000 here, which is pretty fine steel wool, and I'll just give it a shot. See how this affects this aluminum edge. On some other projects I've done, I found steel wool usually does a really nice job of giving an almost mirror finish to aluminum if you just put in the work, put in the elbow grease. And I can see that it's working pretty well, but it's not moving as quickly as I would have liked. This is really interesting here, how the little pieces of steel wool that are coming off are getting pulled onto the back of the phone in the MagSafe magnet array circle. You can see that it's even doing the same all the way through to the front of the phone. Now the problem with the steel wool is that it's doing a really nice job on these edges that are already down to just the silver aluminum, but on the bottom where we had to leave that little bit of blue color right around the lightning port and the speaker and microphone grills on the bottom, the steel wool is just not able to take that off as well. Now at this point I'm realizing that we may need something with a little more oomph to get the last little bits of color off. So I pulled out a piece of 2000 grit sandpaper to see how that will work on the aluminum edge. And I have a sanding block that has a nice squishy piece of foam rubber on the bottom, which might help the sandpaper contour around those things that stick out from the side of the phone, like the mute switch and the volume buttons and the sleep-wake button. So this is the area that's really going to need that sandpaper, the place where there's just the plain, unaffected blue anodizing on the bottom. After just a few passes, we can see how this looks. It's definitely starting to take off some of the color, but it's going to take quite a while, so we can speed this up. And really every edge can benefit from using the sandpaper. So at this point, I'm realizing that it might be a good idea to get some water out and do a little bit of wet sanding. When you use water with your wet or dry sandpaper, the sandpaper just goes a lot longer. It doesn't get clogged up by whatever you're working on. In this case, it's getting clogged up with little aluminum dust that comes off. And then for even more power, I switched out to 600 grit sandpaper to see how that would work. And at that point, really started to make some good progress on the bottom where the oven cleaner was not used on the anodized coating. This is another opportunity to speed up the video. After more and more sanding over and over, I ended up with a really nice, even silver edge. And now that I have that clean silver aluminum surface, I can come back with the steel wool again and polish it to a nice shiny finish. And this is looking pretty good. All of the edges are pretty nice and shiny. Let's compare this to my favorite iPhone 4. I think it looks fantastic, if not even a little bit better. I really like the contrast of the blue back glass to that shiny aluminum side. After all of that work, I'm left with a pretty good result. I have a fully functional iPhone 12 mini with the design aesthetic of the famous iPhone 4. And I tested this out for about an hour. Everything's working perfectly. The speakers are still making sound just as you would expect. All of the buttons work just fine. Wi-Fi, LTE, 5G is all working. And charging via MagSafe is working, as well as charging and data transfer through the Lightning port. Now, just to be safe, I used a little can of compressed air to kind of blow any little bits of steel wool that might have gotten into the port. I wanted to blow that stuff out. I also took some little bits of masking tape that I folded up, sticky side out, to kind of wedge in there and grab any other little remnants of dirt or steel wool that might have been left in there. So I think we have a success. Thanks for watching.